And sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's very convoluted too. And it doesn't have to make a lot of logical sense. A lot of this stuff, a lot of these sort of connections in your psyche are very illogical. Like your father wasn't loving to you, so therefore you became rebellious and you started to hate religion because your father was also religious, let's say. And so you started to hate religion, and now you're this, you're this hyper logical, rational, scientific atheist, scientist, astrophysicist nerd. And maybe you work at a great university like at MIT. You're an astrophysicist doing this stuff. And you might think that, well, your astrophysics has nothing to do, and your scientific materialist philosophy has nothing to do with the fact that your father wasn't loving to you. You might say, these are unrelated. This is not, Leo, none of this is that you're talking about. None of this is scientific. It doesn't make any rational sense. And yet, nevertheless, simply because your father didn't give you the love you wanted and he was religious, that led you down the path of this sort of scientific, atheistic, materialistic, sort of nerd identity that you adopted as a coping mechanism for that. Now, maybe it turned out well for you in the sense that you got a good job and you love what you do. Okay, great. But still, there's a wound there that you haven't addressed. And it's got very little to do with science or with logic. It's got a lot more to do with love or lack thereof. And you better believe, you might think, well, Leo, so what? I'm still doing good science, so it doesn't matter. Not so fast. You see, because your ability to do science is actually going to be corrupted by the fact that you didn't receive sufficient love, and therefore you're reacting against that. And therefore, for example, you are closed off. Your mind is literally closed to studying religion, picking up a religious book, or even listening to someone like me even teach something that might smack of religion. It might turn you off. You might click the video off, and you might not hear about non-duality or mysticism or awakening or other things or absolute truth or other things that are important for you to do your science well. See, if you can't tolerate the things I say, then you can't watch my series, my 3-part series, Deconstructing the Myth of Science, and then you won't be able to understand what science is. And all of that because you didn't get the love you needed as a child. And because of that, you're going to be deluded as a materialist, and you're never going to discover absolute truth, which is really what you want as a scientist. But you're going to miss it because your mind is closed. And the reason it's closed is because you didn't get the love you wanted. And now you're in denial about it. And now you got coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms. You got layer upon layer of coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms such that it would take hours for me just to break through to you, just to convince you that this is the case. And you might be a high IQ, highly rational, highly logical, scientific person. And yet, you're still being dense because there's something deeper going on in your life than science or rationality. Your life is not around that. Your life is around survival, the survival of your psyche. And your psyche can't survive without love, you fool. Your life doesn't run on reason. You don't live for reason. You live for love. And your reasoning is just various tricks the ego mind uses to justify how it gets love, and various partial and biased ways it has of loving. Or, for example, let's say your dad was a businessman, successful businessman, very busy. And so the only way he gave you attention and approval and respect is if you also did business stuff. He looked down upon religious stuff. He looked down upon meditation. He looked down upon artistic stuff. So even though maybe you wanted to become an artist, you didn't, because to earn his respect, you needed your father's love and respect. You also went into business, and now you're running a successful business, but you secretly, deep down, you hate doing business. You don't like it, and you're feeling depressed, and you're feeling like your life is not going well. Stuff in your business is not going well after a certain point because really it's not really aligned with what you really want, because what you really want is you want to be an artist. But you didn't allow that to yourself because you had to earn the respect of your father. And all of this happened unconsciously, automatically. You didn't even think about it. It happened years ago. You forgot about it. It was 40 years. 40 years ago, this choice was made to become a business person in your life. Maybe when you were 15 years old, you made this choice. And now you're like in your 50s. And yet still, this thing is running your life. And you won't be satisfied until you address it.